Well, hey there, everybody. I'm back in the shop today, and you can see, got a little project ahead of me. I was watching a video a couple of days ago, and Skognev, he's got kind of a project going on where he'd like to get us all excited about hafting an axe. So, anyway, this is a little head that my aunt got me, bless her heart. 25 cents at a yard sale. It's a little Collins 2 1/4 pound boy's axe. Got a boy's axe eye in it. Anyway, it's not been mistreated too bad. The pole's been beat on just a little bit, but it's got a slight little swell at the top. And I thought it'd just fit this project just fine. I think what I'll do is I'll clean this up. I'll take this blue paint off of it and the sticker, of course, and slick it up. And this is a handle that was given to me, and it's probably not my first choice of picking out a handle, but you know what, I think this is going to suit this project just fine. I'm not happy about the grain. It's kind of quartered across that way. It's got sapwood and heartwood both on it, and you know, like Skognev mentioned, some axes are meant for, working with, and some are meant for, just using. And I think this is going to make a nice match set here. I chose this handle to put in here because I think it will work just fine as a hatchet. Little 2 1/4 pound hatchet. And I think this is a good pair right here. So, well, what I got my wedge, various grits of sandpaper, some rasps, some files, a chisel for maybe a little fine work, and a knife, my linseed oil, let's see, I've got my stones and my pucks and some honing oil and a couple of things I'm going to use here. So anyway, I guess I'm pretty set up. One thing I want to mention, though, and I have seen it mentioned before, but I think it should be mentioned more often, and especially for people that aren't familiar with it. Most axe heads, not all of them, but most of them, the eye of the head is smaller on the bottom than it is on the top. And they do that purposely, so the way I understand it is, so when you put your handle in there and you get it clear to the top, there's going to be some gap left around the outside. Well, the kerf that they actually saw in these, to receive this wedge when you put it in, that allows for that to swell the top out, so it makes it not so easy for it to slide out of the head. And so whenever you're looking at an axe head or something and you say, oh, is that upside down or right side up, most of the time the eye is smaller on the bottom and larger on the top, and it just takes a, you can do it with your finger almost, and see that it's smaller here than it is there. So the handle goes in this way. Of course, this is a newer axe, and so you can tell by how it's shaping, but oftentimes they've been ground back far enough, and by looking at them you just go, which way does that go on? Well, that's the way I tell, by the eye. So with that said, I think we'll move forward and get set up and start cleaning some things up. See what happens next. Well, I've removed the sticker off of this thing, and I don't clean up most of my axes this way, but I do like these flap discs. They're just an emery wheel, I believe, emery, and they remove some surface pretty good, but you can bear down on them and shape up some steel with them too. So I thought I'd give that a go and see what we got. So turn down your volume. Let's get started. Well, that's what it does, you know, not creating too much heat or anything. And like I said, you can bear down on it and you can do something with it, but it's just taking the surface off right now, and we'll do that and maybe use a little hand emery on it or something like that to smooth things up. So anyway, don't want you to suffer through this, so see you in a minute. Well, I think you can agree we didn't do it any harm by slicking it up a little bit. And you can see I stayed away from, actually I did go over that, but it's got one little ding there. But you can still see Collins 2 1/4. We did, you know, here's some imperfections when the axe was made, just some slight pock marks. There's paint down in there, so this side I haven't worked over quite so hard, but they'll probably remain there. Cleaned at the top. Anyway, it's gonna be a good little axe. Alright, as you can tell, you know, I didn't push on this thing or anything. I just let that little hand grinder do the work, you know, and that emery wheel. And you know, I didn't make it hot, you know. It's warm, but you know, we certainly never want to grind on this kind of stuff and change the temper of this. What I can see, it looks like it's tempered back to about right in here. It's got a lot of life left into it. Alright, moving forward. Well, it's time to start working on this handle, so I've held the head up here and kind of got an idea on what I got to remove off of here, and it looks like I need to take a little bit off of here and a little bit off of here on both sides. So just use this little rasp here and kind of give it that shot a little bit at a time. I do have it clamped down to the bench here. Kind of helps a little bit. You don't have to, but I find it's kind of helpful. And you just continue on like that, and you can get more aggressive with it with these 4-in-hand or whatever choice rasp you want. But I find this works pretty well. I'm not going to have to remove too much off of this, so I'm just going to continue to do it like this, and take me a few minutes and I'll get that head on there. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier about the eye being smaller on the bottom and larger on the top. As you can see, I've taken this down a little bit and I'm still not going to make it in the bottom there. It's just real close. But if you flip it over, look at that. There's lots of room. So that's so when you put the handle in and you run that wedge in there, it swells the top out so that handle just doesn't slide out. So right now it's just kind of a trim and fit, and I'm getting real close, so just keep working at it. Okay, as you can see, got some marks on here. I did get the head on there that far, and I probably could go ahead and drive it all the way on, but like I said, need to leave some room for the wedge, and so if it's that tight, you're going to close that kerf on that as you squeeze it into the head of the axe, and so you want to have plenty of kerf for your wedge. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to take this down a little bit further, but you can see here I can get it on that far, but I don't know if you can see that, but it starts to close that kerf in there, so I just want to take just a little bit more off of there. While I'm doing this process, I prefer not to hit my axe with anything metal, so I just use this little block of wood here and just a soft piece of fur, and so it's not damaging the axe as I'm putting it on and off. I'm not dinging it up and stuff, so that's what I use, just a little sacrificial piece of wood. Alright, keep on working on it. Okay, well, it's getting real close now. I'm just using a little bit of sandpaper here to make the transition from head to handle look decent. And but I've fit it on there a little bit, and I think it's time to go ahead and hang this thing and get it drifted home. Alright, well, let's see what happens next. Well, as you can see, getting it started on there, and I think as I get this thing drifted home, it's just going to be right. So now there again, I don't have any big fancy tools or anything, just using this same old block of wood, and I just hang it down like this, hold on to it, and give it a nice sharp wrap. You can see it's traveling down on the head. We've got 1/4 of an inch of the handle sticking out the top now. It's starting to curl the wood down here where it's transitioning onto the handle here, so it's just what I want. Give it a couple more wraps. Yep. Moving on there, it's just about where I want it. Looks like it's going on pretty true. Looking pretty good. It's angling down just a little bit, so I'm going to knock this back off, and I'm going to take just a little bit of material out of the back here, and that's going to true that head up a little bit. And there again, just use my sacrificial piece of wood here, and I just knock it off like that, so I won't bore you with that. Okay, got her home. I'm real pleased with the way that went on. I'm going to show you, since I had to take this handle down so far to get it in through the bottom, it left a large amount of gap here on top, but guess what, my kerf is still open. So when I place this wedge in there and drive it home, it's going to fill all this just like I want it. So we're getting there. Okay, keep moving forward. Well, I think I got that down on there where I want it, and so maybe you can see how it's starting to peel the handle right there. And I just take this little knife and I just go right along the head there. And I take this chisel. I could use the knife also, but this does a pretty good job. Makes it nice and smooth, so just like that. Alright. Well, I knocked the head back off this thing. I just wanted to show you the transition there. And I want to give this thing a fighting chance. So my experience with handles that have funny grain like that, sapwood, heartwood combination, you know, if they're out in the weather at all, eventually that's right where they're going to give up. They're going to give up right here where the sapwood and the heartwood, especially with the grain running this way. Now, I wouldn't worry about it so much if the grain was running true with the length of the handle, but this is a hatchet that I restored. This was my dad's hatchet that he had ever since I was a young kid, and that's what happens when you have heartwood, sapwood, and bad grain. So that's why I think I'm going to put a good coat of linseed oil on this thing before I put it together. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'd like to get some linseed oil up here and give it a fighting chance anyway. That's not what I normally do. I usually hang the head and put my linseed oil on and work on the handle afterwards, but I think for this project that's what I'm going to do. So let me get some linseed oil out and we'll put a coat on. Most normally I use a sponge brush to do this, but guess what? I don't have any, so like I said, this is probably overkill, but I give this thing a fighting chance. Get it down here in the kerf, and you know, most usually when you work on an axe and you're, you know, replacing the handle in it, if you look at it, this is where they usually fail too, is up here, and moisture gets trapped in there, they rot, and this one, you know, over time probably will too, but like I said, let's just give it a fighting chance here and get some linseed oil down there in that kerf, let it run clear to the bottom, and yeah, something like that. You know something? It's going to be a pretty handle. Man, this thing's going to look awesome. Get several coats on here over time, and it's going to be kind of a sharp looking little hatchet. Well, one thing I did before this, and I forgot to mention, and I forgot to show it, is I did run over this with some sandpaper and clean it up a little bit, but I think we will, you know, put some linseed oil on this, let it soak in, sand it, steel wool it, put another coat on tomorrow, and every day for a week, every week for a month, and every month for the year. It's kind of how I do all my things here, so I want it to be good and preserved. Anyway, that's that. And we'll rehang this thing, drive the wedge, see what happens. Okay, we're getting down to the end down here. I rehung the head, and it's time to trim this wedge up. And what we'll do is we'll put it in there, mark it, drive her home. So let me get that much done. Alright. Okay, well, as you see, got my wedge started in there, and got it trimmed up around the edges over, tapered it slightly because I like to get it started there nice. And so what I usually do, it's important to hit these kind of with a square flat surface, you know, hit it all the way across the wedge, and I just use this little block and get it started. Make sure it's still setting down where it needs to set, down here on the handle. And one thing I did check before I rehung this head, I made sure that I had plenty of kerf. Like I mentioned before, you want about 2/3 the distance down this axe head. You want that kerf to follow down there. So I left this wedge plenty thick. So this is the other thing I got. I got this big block of steel here, and I use it for my driver. And actually I like to drive it just like I'm doing. I like to do it in my hand. I don't like to lay it against the floor or anything solid, because I feel that sometimes I've had that head bounce up a little bit, and not seat clear down on the handle like it should. So this is how I do it. Yeah. Oh yeah. It has swelled that handle right over the top of this head. So just like Skognev said, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I usually do this, I trim it all off right flush and I drive a metal wedge in there, but I'm trying his technique this time because the man's got skills and he knows what he's talking about, and I think this is going to work just fine. I'm really happy with the way this thing's all going together. Oh, don't break your finger. And I'll tell you, doing it like this, you can tell when that wedge has made it home. It feels different in your hand, and you just know when it's there. So nice. Real happy with that, and it is home. Yeah. Okay, well, next thing I'm going to trim that off and clean this up. Well, I just had to show you. I don't know if you can see that, but oh my goodness. Look at how that is flared out on top, just like it's supposed to. It's going to do the trick. Okay, I just marked this line here with a pair of dividers and give me a nice equal distance from the head there, and I'm going to take it off with this little saw. Yeah, I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll go ahead and finish it up. Okay, well, I got that sawed off there. Oh my goodness. I think I'm very pleased with how this worked out. You know, I had quite a gap all the way around that. The wedge drove home true, filled everything, and I think that head's on there to stay. That's how much I left protruding out the top. I don't know, probably 3/16 maybe. Maybe not that much, about an eighth, I guess. So, yeah, look at that. Nice. Well, I think the only thing left to do is put an edge on this thing and see if it works. This little hatchet's probably not going to be much of a splitter, or a chopper, I mean. I think I'm going to use it more for splitting kindling and little things, but we'll put a good edge on it. I'm not going to profile it back too far. Just a short little profile on this. Alright, coming around, looking good. Very pleased with it. Okay, well, I just got your standard bastard file here, and just keeping my eye on right where I'm working. And watching what's happening with each stroke. Doing it freehand like this, you know, you can really get off and mess some things up, so it's important to pay attention and just watch right exactly where you're stroking the bit or the file against the bit of this hatchet. It's just profiling it. It's just getting the right angle that you want on it. You know, on a bigger axe, I'd probably take more of the meat off back in here, kind of thin it out a little bit, but this is going to be more for splitting, kindling, and I'll do some chopping with it, I'm sure, but this is just what my idea of what I'm going to do with this thing. And then look at it, make sure you're getting it even on both sides, getting the same angle. Look right down the edge. Boy, it's getting sharp already. Looks pretty true. I'm going, I don't know if you can see that, but this looks pretty straight. So you know, we've all seen that, so let me work on this a bit and get back with you in a minute. Okay, well, I think I got that thing profiled about like I want it. So I'm going to use this little puck. It's got a coarse side and a fine side. We'll start out with the coarse side here and just kind of work that edge over. Put some honing oil on it. And the way that I do it, I don't know if I can show you, but I hold this bit straight at me and in a circular motion, and I just watch the edge of the bit right where I'm honing it, and make sure I get in contact right where I want it. And then I turn it around and I hone it this way. And you can see that oil peeling off there. And if you just look at right where the stone is making contact with the bit, you can tell right where you're working. It's not just to, you know, fly at it and hope you get it. You really have to pay attention to where the stone's working. So that's it. I'm going to use the coarse side. Get this. Oh yeah, it's getting sharp already. Get this thing ground down a little bit, and then I'll flip over and use the less coarse side, the smoother side, and really hone this thing in. Well, you know what? I looked all over the place for some wood. I don't seem to have any firewood here at the shop anymore. Burned it all up. Anyway, got a couple of pieces of redwood here that I had, so that's kind of what I had in mind for this hatchet. You know, not going to be a big workhorse or anything, but there it is. That's what I want it for. Well, thanks for the idea there, Skog, and you know, many more to come. I like your technique here. I tried it and it works, and I think it will continue to work. So, all right, keep on bushcrafting.